What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Adventure Outpost. Another weekend has come and gone, and it is once again time to talk those juicy box office numbers. It was another stellar weekend here at the box office. All eyes have been on how Super Mario has just been dominating the box office. Would anything be able to dethrone this massive, massive movie? And now, as another weekend we are saying goodbye to, we can once again say that Super Mario Brothers is still the reigning champ here at the box office. And like I said, nobody is dethroning this movie until Guardians of the Galaxy comes out. So I'm sure we're going to see this weekend a fourth repeat with Super Mario Brothers at the top of the charts. The only question will be, will it be another historic performance? Because like the past 3 weeks, these past 3 weeks have been historic performers for Super Mario Brothers. Not only did it set a best of for an animated movie opening weekend, but it did a second best opening weekend for an animated movie, and it did a third best opening weekend for an animated movie. This movie is just destroying all box office records for an animated movie right now. It is just a absolute gangbusters. And after this weekend, it is all but sure that this movie is going to be our first billion-dollar blockbuster of 2023. The movie is just hovering just under 900 million right now, and it still has yet to come out in Japan, home of Nintendo. So it's easy that we can see this movie ending somewhere around $1.5 billion. That's just how much of a gargantuan juggernaut this movie is turning out to be. So we're going to dive into all of that good stuff today. But as always, before we dive into all the good stuff, if you like the channel, if you enjoy any of these videos, consider hitting that subscribe button, hit that like button, drop some comments down below. It's how we help this channel grow. But with all that out of the way, let's dive into all of the good stuff that we have to get into for the weekend of April 21st to April 23rd. And we start, as always, with our box office chart for 2023. We take a look at that bad boy right now. And as you can see, in our 16th week, we are at $115 million over our top 10 movies. It was a 19.4% drop over the previous week, but we are still at absolutely fantastic numbers right now. Any weekend that we can get over 100 million is a great weekend here at the box office. And now, as we said, all eyes were on Super Mario Brothers to see just how well of a performance it would do in its third weekend, if it would continue to hold the top spot and say good try to Evil Dead Rise and Guy Ritchie's The Covenant and Beau is Afraid and all those movies. And of course, it absolutely did by a large margin. So we're going to dive right now into the top 10, see where everything fell for this weekend here in the charts. The Super Mario Brothers, for the third weekend in a row, takes the top spot. It drops only 36.9%. That is fan-fucking-tastic. It takes in $58 million. In its third weekend, it took in more money than Shazam did in its opening weekend. Shazam 2, not the first one. But my God, is that fucking insane. It has a total domestic haul of $434 million off of a $100 million budget. This movie just continues to break records, continues to just do phenomenally well. Its holdover week to week is phenomenal. This is the movie that 2023 needed right now. Ant-Man and the Wasp did not come up to par. We had some really solid mid-tier titles in March with Creed 3 and Scream 6 and John Wick, all putting up franchise best performances. But we needed that like big, huge juggernaut, like a Top Gun Maverick, like an Avatar Way of Water, like a Spider-Man No Way Home, to really fucking just give us that catapult that we needed into the summer movie season. And Super Mario Brothers is absolutely performing like that. In second place, with a very still respectable opening, is Evil Dead Rise. It took in $23.5 million off a $19 million budget. So this movie, right off the bat, right from the opening weekend, is already going to be turning a profit. That is a phenomenally well opening for a horror movie. Not the greatest one for all of the Evil Dead movies, but they've never been the biggest trendsetters in how big of their box office total are, but they always end up making themselves a nice bit of profit. So it's great to see that Evil Dead Rise continues that trajectory of just fantastic performers in this franchise. I haven't yet seen that movie. I'm supposed to be going to see it later tonight, so I'm super excited to check that one out. It looks absolutely demented. In third spot is a movie that I actually did go see over the weekend, and that is Guy Ritchie's The Covenant. Takes in $6 million off of a $55 million budget, so this movie wildly underperforming. Even taking the third spot, wasn't even able to break double digits in the 10 million plus. This is just an absolute travesty. It's a shame for this movie because the movie was actually really fucking good. It was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I think this movie suffered from a trailer that really didn't inspire people to want to see this movie. The trailer didn't even really do anything for me, but I just saw Guy Ritchie and Jake Gyllenhaal and I was like, I'm gonna go see that. But the trailer probably turned off a lot of people, and it's a shame because the movie is much better than the trailer suggests. I implore you, if you were on the fence at all about going to see this movie, go check it out. It is an absolutely worthy of your time movie. In fourth place, we've got John Wick Chapter 4 in its fifth weekend, dropping 28.5%. It takes in $5.7 million to bring total domestic haul to $168 of a $100 million budget. This movie firmly in the camp now as the the highest grossing entry in the franchise. And rounding out the top 5, able to jump back into the top 5. The last weekend, Dungeons & Dragons was actually in the 6th spot. It manages to jump up one more spot into the 5th spot in its 4th week, drops 28.3%, takes in $5.4 million, bringing its total domestic haul to $82 million of a $150 million budget. Over on the back 5, we've got Air in the 6th spot in its 3rd week, dropping 37%. It takes in $4.9 million to bring its total domestic haul to 41 off of a $90 million budget. We got The Pope's Exorcist in 7th with week 2, drops 63.2%. Dear Lord. It brings in $3.3 million, bringing its total domestic haul to $14 million off of an $18 million budget. So even with the number 2 performance last week, this movie still looks like it's going to struggle to get over that initial budget line to even turn a profit. In 8th place is the box office bomb Renfield. In its 2nd week, drops 61.3%, takes in $3.1 million to bring its total domestic haul to $13 million off of a $65 million budget. So this one will join 2023 in the pantheon of movies that were absolute box office travesties. In 9th place is the movie Beau is Afraid. In its 2nd week is up 782.3%. Well, it was only released in a few theaters last week. Now it gets more of a wide release this week, and it's going to get even more of a wide release next week, so this number might be a positive again. It takes in $2.8 million to bring its total domestic haul to $3 million off a $35 million budget. I did see this movie also. I went and saw it on 420. What a day to go see Beau is Afraid, and I fucking hated it. I don't throw that around lightly because I don't hate movies very often, but at 3 hours, I need some forward progression in the term of like actual cohesive plot. And this is just one of those movies that's just not for me. This type of indie filmmaking where there's just kind of like meandering and there's no plot. I get why people love this movie and I get why people really enjoy it. And it's to them, fair, absolutely fair. It's by no means a badly made movie. It's just not my cup of tea. It's not for me. This was not a movie that was tailored to what I like in my movies. So naturally, I am going to really hate it while other people really enjoy it. But I understand why people really enjoy it. And there is plenty to like about it. The direction is fantastic. The production value is absolutely fantastic. But I just found myself just bored to tears and just constantly looking at my phone waiting for this thing to be over because it just meandered and just like small collections of just scenes didn't do it for me. It wasn't for me. And rounding us out in the 10th spot is Suzume in its 2nd week, drops The Name of the Beast 66.6%. It takes in $1.6 million, bringing its total domestic haul to $8.4 million. Now, as always, we like to take a look at our fallen heroes. These are our heroes that did their time in the top 10, but have now bowed out for greener passages. We got 3 movies this week that have fallen out of the top 10. We take a look right here. Mafia Mama, after 1 week on the chart. Scream, after 6 weeks on the chart, bows out. And Nefarious, after 1 week, also bows out of the top 10. You did your time, you had your say, you made your money, but now it's time to say adieu to you, and we'll see you in the realm of physical media. And as always, we salute you. We turn next to the worldwide and domestic charts for 2023. We start, as always, with the top 10 worldwide for the year. We take a look here at the chart. It is no surprise that Super Mario Bros. Is the #1 movie of the world. It is $876 million. That is just absolutely filthy good after only 3 weeks. The sky is the limit for this movie. It is going to be wondrous to continue along and see just how much this movie puts up. I've talked about it before, but I could firmly see this movie ending somewhere around $1.5 billion. In 2nd place is Full River Red with $673 million. The Wandering Earth with $604 million. Ant-Man and the Wasp, not even going to break $500 million when all is said and done. It sits right now at $474 million. Not the Kickstarter that they wanted for Phase 5 or for the new big bad of the franchise, Kang the Conqueror. And rounding out the top 5 is John Wick Chapter 4 with $358 million. We've got Creed 3 in 6th place with $271 million. Boonie Bears with $221 million. Dungeons & Dragons, at least worldwide, was able to make its initial budget back with $177 million. But with all the marketing and advertising costs, I'm sure this movie still has a ways to go before it even sees $1 in profit. In 9th place, we've got Megan with $176.6 million. And rounding out the top 10 is Scream 6 with $168 million. Over on the domestic front, Super Mario Brothers is still the #1 movie in the year. It took in $434 million. Ant-Man and the Wasp right behind it with $212 million. John Wick Chapter 4 with $168 million. Creed 3 with $155 million. Scream 6 with $107 million. Megan with $95. Dungeons and Dragons at $82 million. Cocaine Bear at $64. Shazam! Fury of the Gods holding strong right now at $57. And Jesus Revolution bringing up the 10th spot with $52 million. Now, something that we had to say goodbye for a whole month, but I'm so happy to see back, is getting to look at our chart of movies that were able to hold on to the #1 spot for more than 1 week consecutively. I love when you get to see what kind of movies have legs and just what other movies come out that just never stand a chance of hitting first, with this movie just dominating. So it is amazing to watch Super Mario Bros. Performance right now, and we get to add another week to its dominance. We take a look now here at the chart of our movies that have held #1 for more than 1 week in 2023. We had Avatar just kick off the year, just fucking insanely strong, with 12/16, 12/23, 12/30, 1/6, 1/13, 1/20, and 1/27. Absolutely insane. We had Ant-Man and the Wasp do it for a 2-weekender with February 17th and February 24th. And then we had nothing for the entire month of March. And finally now Super Mario Brothers is back to give us that dominance that we needed. We've got right now, it has held 3 weeks in a row at #1 with April 7th, April 14th, and now April 21st. And I'm sure we will be adding next weekends to this list before Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 hits theaters. As always, one last chart that we'd like to take a look at before we leave is our best legs. It's the movies that are doing the best here at the box office, to see by the end of the year just what movies had the best legs here at the box office. We take a look at our top 10 chart riders for 2023. We look here now at the list. You got at the bottom, finally debuting here in the chart, in the 10th spot is John Wick Chapter 4, which has spent 5 weeks now here in the box office, and it shows no signs of slowing down consistently, all 5 of those weeks being in the top 5. I could see this movie hanging around for a bit more, hopefully long enough to get itself up into the top 5. Knocking out, if John Wick got in, it knocked out Cocaine Bear, which was locked in at 5 weeks, so we say goodbye now to Cocaine Bear. Right ahead of John Wick, we've got Missing, Megan, Jesus Revolution, Creed 3, and Scream 6, all locked in at 6 weeks. They have bowed out of the top 10. This is where they're finishing. Now it has shows for any other movie to get over 6 weeks here in the top 10. All those are sitting pretty right now. John Wick will jump past all of those next weekend when it manages to still hang around in the top 5. Just ahead of those, we have Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, locked in at 7 weeks. A Man Called Otto in the 3rd spot, locked in at 8 weeks. And then we have our 2022 holdover movies that are the movies to beat this year. Puss in Boots in 2nd place with 11 weeks locked in. And Avatar: The Way of Water, king of the charts, with 12 weeks in the top 10. And that'll do it for all of us here at the charts this week. It was a lighter week, not a lot to talk about. Obviously, we're still heading on just this historic run for Super Mario Brothers, and all eyes will once again be on it this weekend to see just how much it puts up in its 4th weekend. There's no doubt in my mind that it was going to be #1 again. The question will be is how much is it going to put up? Forecasted right now, it's saying somewhere in the 30 million range. That's still insanely good for a movie in its 4th week. Like, that is absolutely absurd to still be putting up 4 weeks into its release. But I'm sure we're going to see Super Mario #1. The question is how is the rest of the top 10 going to look? We've got a slew of movies coming out this week. The biggest of the bunch being Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, the Judy Blume book everybody's been waiting for. I saw an article where somebody's saying finally some competition for Mario, and that just makes me laugh because I don't think so. That's not competition for Mario in the slightest. And then there's a bunch of like smaller budget movies that are coming out. Big George Foreman, the boxing movie about George Foreman, that's going to be lucky if it gets any turn of a profit. It's going to be much like Sweetwater and all these other movies that have come out that are just going to barely make a dent here along the box office. There is the Bollywood stunt movie Polite Society coming out, but not a lot of places are getting that, so I don't see that one being a big, huge movie around for places either. And then probably what's funny is I think the one that stands the biggest chance is the 40th re-release of Return of the Jedi. That's coming out this weekend. A bunch of theaters are getting it. It's going to be interesting to see just how well that does, because I know I already got my ticket to go see it. Even though I've seen that movie a gajillion times, I've never seen it on the big screen, so it's going to be awesome to go and see Return of the Jedi on the big screen. I wonder how many other people are also going to go do that. Do we see a world where Return of the Jedi is the #2 movie next weekend? I don't think it's going to be the case. I think it'll probably be Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret. But That's the beauty of the box office, is until we hit those weekend numbers, everything is just speculation. And it's so wonderful to sit here and think and wonder what's going to happen this upcoming weekend at the box office. I love charting along with these numbers and seeing what's going to happen. But that'll do it for all of us here at the Outpost in this adventure. Until the next one, you have been you, I have been me. These are the movies that we love so much. And until next time, I'll see you at the movies.